Hi guys, it's Duana here, but this time I have another sew along for my Virginia jacket pattern. What I love about my patterns is that I create lots of variations for what you can do. So you don't even have to do the jacket with the lining. You can do the jacket without the lining. It also comes with a dress version that has long sleeves and no sleeves. So you can choose whatever you want to do. And that is another reason I just really love my indie patterns. Another thing that this jacket has that I absolutely adore is the tie in the back. I love the tie. And you can't see it here, but here it is. Look at this. This is the cutest little thing ever. Oh my gosh. But I absolutely love it, and I think you would too. So stay tuned for my sew along for my Virginia jacket pattern. Okay, so let's take a look at the pattern pieces. This is pattern piece number 1. This is the front bodice, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of lining. This is pattern piece number 2. This is the back bodice, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of lining. This is pattern piece number 7. This is the back ties, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric. This is pattern piece number 9. This is the sleeve, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric. This is pattern piece number 10, the bias tape, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric. And lastly, you have pattern piece number 11. This is the cuff, and you're going to cut 4 of fabric and 2 of interfacing. All right, so you're going to need your main fabric. You're going to need lining. You're going to need a 7-inch separating zipper, and you're also going to need buttons or snaps. I ended up using snaps at the last minute. All right, so let's get started. So first, go ahead and grab your front bodice sections, and you're going to go ahead and pin the darts. There are waist darts and bust darts, and so you're going to do both of those. To save time, it's a good idea to also do this with your lining pieces as well. And now once you're done pinning, you're going to stitch from the raw edge to the point. When you are stitching darts, you always want to start from the raw edge and work your way down. Once you get about an inch away from the point, you can bring it a lot closer to the edge and then stitch all the way to the end of the point. Do not backstitch. Make sure you have enough thread that you can tie a knot, and you're going to go ahead and do this again with all of your darts. Press your darts down once you are done, and they should be facing downwards and to the center. And again, don't forget to do this with your lining as well. Also, do the same for your back bodice pieces. This includes the lining. When you are done pinning it, you can go ahead and take it to your sewing machine and make sure you're pressing to the center back. All right, so go ahead and grab pattern piece number 7, the back ties. And remember that view C only needs the back ties, not the waist ties. Fold the back ties lengthwise and right sides together and press. Now we're going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch 3/8 inch away from the raw edge, leaving one side unsewn, and that side would be the side with the circle marking. Trim around the edges so it's not bulky when you turn it right sides out. I like to use a loop turner to turn small pieces of fabric right sides out. It is a preference because it is hard to use, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple. All right, so we are going to now attach the back ties to the back bodice. And so you want to make sure that your circle markings match up, and we're going to go ahead and baste that in place. All right, so now go ahead and pin the back sides, right sides facing, and then you're going to go ahead and stitch that together. All right, so now go ahead and grab your front pieces and you're going to go ahead and pin the front to the back at the sides as well as the shoulders. Now go ahead and take this to your sewing machine. And don't forget to always press your seams open. And also don't forget to do this with your lining pieces. Now go ahead and stay stitch the neck edges of the front and the back. Now stay stitching is not mandatory when your fabric is not stretchy, but I like to do it especially when I'm adding a zipper just so it can be used as a guide when adding the zipper. Speaking of zipper, go ahead and grab your separating zipper. I am using a 7-inch separating zipper, but definitely check your size to see if a longer zipper is necessary. So make sure you open up and separate the zipper, and on the outside of the right side of the fabric, not the lining, you're going to place the top stop of the zipper at the zipper placement line with the zipper tape lined up with the raw edge. Have the zipper teeth facing away from the raw edge. Now go ahead and take this to your sewing machine and base stitch your zipper to the front of your jacket. Do the other side of the zipper, and in order to do that, what I like to do is reattach the separating zipper, and I like to take the other side that does not have the zipper attached to it, and then I line it up, and then I pin it just to make sure it's in place. And then if you look, now I can see that other side of the zipper, and I'm gonna baste it right there in place. And I like that way just because it gives a more accurate location of where the zipper should be. All right, so my zipper works, it looks good, and it's in place. And so I'm going to now go ahead to the next step. Grab your lining and you're going to attach it to the main fabric, right sides facing. I always like to start at the center back just to make sure that everything is lined up properly. Make sure not to catch the back ties in your pinning. When stitching long pieces together, I always start at the center and work my way out and come back to the center and work my way out, and it works out beautifully. You want to make sure that you don't stitch the zipper. Leave that part open, and then you're also going to stitch the bottom. Once you are done, it's a good idea to just clip the center back seam. Turn the jacket right sides out, and now you're going to understitch the lining. When understitching, remember that you are bringing your seam allowance to the lining and you're stitching about 1/4 of an inch away from the main fabric onto the lining as far as you can go. At some curves and corners, it might be hard, and that's okay. Just make sure you backstitch at the end. Once you're done understitching, go ahead and pin your armhole pieces together. So that means your outside fabric and your lining. You want to keep that in place. And then you can go ahead and stay stitch around it just to make sure that it is ready for the sleeves. All right, so before moving on to the sleeves, we are going to just clean this up and we're going to do a top stitch around the front and back and then also at the bottom of the jacket. You can always use a different color if you want, but I chose to use the same color as the front of the jacket. We are almost done and it looks so good. Okay, so now grab your sleeves, and with both sleeves, you're gonna ease stitch the sleeve between the notches. All right, I didn't show this part, but you also want to stitch along the stitching lines on the sleeve, and then here I'm cutting between the stitching line on the cut line. So the bias tape should be pressed 1/4 of an inch on both sides lengthwise. And you're going to take that, you're going to spread the cut edges of the sleeve apart, forming a straight line. And you're going to pin the folded sides of the bias tape and stitch close to the pressed edge. All right, so this is what it looks like when you are done. And what you're going to do is you're going to turn the edge of the bias tape to the shape of a V, making sure that the opening is facing towards the front side of the sleeve. It's gonna look like a little triangle on top, and to keep it in place, you can go ahead and pin it just to make sure it's not moving around, but then you can also stitch around the upper edge of the binding. And if you look at the instruction manual, it'll give you a better visual of that. And if you haven't already, with right sides together, stitch the sleeve sides together, and then you're going to create gathers at the bottom of the sleeve by creating 2 long parallel stitches from one end to the other. Do not backstitch. You're going to need that extra thread to pull. All right, so now go ahead and grab your cuff pieces. You should have one side that is interfaced and one side that is not. Now, I used a very thick denim fabric, or it's a fairly thick fabric, so I did not interface one side. So you can feel free to not do that if you feel like your fabric is thick enough. So now you're gonna go ahead and pin the bottom of the cuff and go ahead and stitch it together. So I am done, and notice here that I understitched the interfaced side, or the side that should be interfaced. Now make sure you press the seam of the interfaced side 5/8 of an inch, wrong sides facing. Now go ahead and stitch the sides of your cuff. Once you're done, you can go ahead and attach your cuff to the bottom of your sleeve, and you can just adjust the gathers just to make sure that it fits all the way around. Now go ahead and you're going to stitch in the ditch just to make sure that your interfaced side is in place. Now we're going to go ahead and attach our sleeve to our bodice. And with right sides together, we are going to pin the sleeve to the armhole edge, matching the notches. And once we are done, we're going to go stitch all the way around, starting from the side seam. So you can go ahead and add your snaps or your buttons. I like snaps because they're a lot easier, but depending on what you use, make sure you follow the instructions on how to use it. For information on how to apply snaps, check out the video in the description. All right, so give your jacket a final press and clean off any markings, and you are done. Thanks for watching my sew along for my Virginia jacket pattern. Don't forget to tag Duana Studio in your make.